Hey Jillian, my name is Christian Ostmo. This audit is going to walk you through some of the weaknesses and strength your websites may have in terms of like design and optimization. Just for a bit of background, I've been a web designer for about a decade. I currently call London home, but I grew up in like West Coast America, the Silicon Valley area. I specialize in something called conversion rate optimization, which means that I build websites that they sell better, they get more subscribers, gather more leads, etc., depending on what you want. I'm not really here to comment on how good or bad your design is because those things are subjective, and so it would be, kind of wrong of me to say that. Obviously, you need it to look professional, neat, that sort of thing, but good and bad is not really what I work on. I will use my data-driven knowledge to tell you what sells and what doesn't, and what gets readers and what doesn't, etc. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I always start with the visual aspect because that's the part that people are most familiar with. I can tell right now that it does kind of, it's, you put thought into the design of it, obviously. I have a little bit of a bone to pick. I think that the advert right here, right at the bottom, I can't tell you exactly why, but I think that's really, it just kind of looks bad. I know you have to make money with your blog somehow. I don't know what kind of traffic you get on this, but I imagine that that's not actually paying you that much. That would be my best guess. It's a lot better if you can come up with people don't really respond to ads that well. You might get paid per impression or whatever, but you're not going to make very much money unless you are getting, hundreds of thousands of page views, and it just doesn't look that good. That good, in my opinion. It doesn't look that put together, and at the same time it kind of causes what am I trying to say? At the same time, it's not actually going to pay you that much. So my best solution for making money while you're blogging is to use like affiliate marketing and things like that inside the blog articles. Those take also a lot of page views and a lot of clicks and that sort of thing. But in my opinion, that's kind of more of a respectable way, and it's a more subtle way, something that doesn't come off as disorganized. And so, yeah, that's my main opinion about that. The next thing that I have to say is that, okay, yes, Simply Sassy, Scrumptious. If I come here and I already know what it is, that's great. You know that you know the name already, which is good. But I don't know right away what I'm looking at. And so that's kind of a problem. If you take a look at one of my websites right here, let me paint you this. This right here is really important. Share your best, gain from the best. This is the most important bit right here. The best skill swapping tool for the lean entrepreneur. Right away, people know what they're looking at. And this is kind of a psychology thing. People naturally read your website from left to right, like this, and from top to bottom. And they always end up right here. Always. And so about 90% of the people who come to this website click this button, which is exactly what I want them to do. And so the idea of, people people who do what I do, and the idea is to figure out what you want your viewer to do and then get them to do it. That's it in a nutshell. And so I know that I want my viewer to click this button because I want them to apply for this. And if I go back to the website, I click this button, it brings me down to here, and it gets them to click that, and that's exactly what I want them to do. And it takes them onto an application page where they sign up for the membership. So for somebody like you, if you want them to subscribe or you want them to read, put something right here. A really great thing that you can do. You really don't need your social media up here because you have not sold me on your product. You have not sold me on your blog or anything else. So I would suggest taking this out. This can go in the footer. It can go in the sidebar over here if you want it to. But right at the top of your website, it's really not that important. I would also say you have two menus right here and right here. Oops, let me bring it back. Right here and right, you know where it is. I think that that's just too much. It makes the homepage too busy. And so if you look at like a website like the one that I just showed you, right away, it's also a little bit busy, but there's only one move that I actually want the customer to take, and that's click that button. And that's the only option that I actually give them. I'm not saying it's not okay to have a menu because it obviously is. But to have two menus and to have too many options and that sort of thing, it just makes the whole page too busy. And so what happens when people don't know exactly what they're supposed to do, statistically speaking, they just hit the back button, which, I mean, goes back to your website in that circumstance. But if they weren't there before, then it doesn't. And so statistically speaking, because you have so much stuff on your website, some really good chunk of them, will say 20 to 40% of them, are just going to hit the back button. They don't know why they're there, and they are going to leave. Some of them are going to scroll down and they're going to see your content, and that's great. But you want all of them to do that. Okay, the next thing, this is really good. You have beautiful pictures, by the way, and I think that the way that you outlaid your blog and your blog articles is pretty good. I like that. Scrolling down, you have this right here, and I have to say, this is a big mistake that a lot of people make. This is great. This is great if the person already knows that they want to see your recipes, but we're on the home page here. I don't know what recipes you have. I mean, they look delicious, but I would not encourage them to get all the latest recipes right to your inbox. What I would do is I would give away something for free. Now, you're obviously... what am I trying to say? You're obviously giving away something, the recipes, but I would make it maybe a little bit more compelling. Something like get the guide to... not just something more compelling in that it's more about them. So get all the latest recipes, makes it a little bit about you. Maybe make it say something like something more specific and more compelling, like one recipe that will blow your socks off every week, something like that. Now, obviously, that sounds a bit corny, but that's just what I came up with off the top of my head. But no, I think this looks all right. I'm glad that you're gathering emails. That's great. I'm sure that if you're getting traffic enough to pay for advertisement, you're probably getting something, from that. But I think you could get a lot more if you made it a bit more compelling, this text right here. Secondly, I would forget the last name. Statistically speaking, a lot of people, the more things that they have to do in order to subscribe, the fewer people you're going to have who actually do it. And so if you can forget last name and you can just put, name right here, I mean, that's going to be, statistically speaking, again, the best thing that you can do. Next thing, this is great. Latest from the blog. These look delicious. And, I mean, there's, these are very visual as well. I think these all look great. And this is cool, too, a little bit about you. This is actually a really fantastic place to put your social media. That's perfect. I would maybe put somewhere along here, like... something from your readers, like maybe if somebody said how great you are or how wonderful the food is or something like that. If you can put that somewhere in here, if you have something that someone has said, that kind of thing really engages people. And so I would put that probably closer to the top, maybe up here. And then, yeah, great little paragraph about you. That's fantastic. About latest recipes, looks good. And this is just basically, I mean, it's a blog, and you're showing all the content from the blog. I think that's great. It looks good. Let's see. Cooking with essential oils. This is something that I was curious about. Is your website about cooking with essential oils, or is it about just recipes in general, and then this is a topic? Because it kind of seemed like this seems more important than you're leading on. I'm not really sure. And that's exactly the problem, is that I'm not sure about it. The customer, the reader, should know exactly why they're there. Am I here to find just things that are delicious, really vaguely, or am I here to cook with essential oils, or am I here to travel? It's fine that you have different categories. Obviously, it's your personal blog, and so that's totally cool. But I think you have to be a bit more specific about what the blog is. And something like stay updated just isn't that, this right here just isn't that compelling. You have to say something like, I'm giving this away for free, like I'm giving my best recipes for free, if you put your name and email address in here. And again, first name or just name and email address. Okay. Yeah, I just don't like the way that this ad looks. I don't know. I think it makes the page too busy. I'm not a big fan of any of these banner ads, to be perfectly honest. I know I can close them, but, it kind of turns me off to the whole thing, and I think it does the same to other people. Again, I would take the social media out of the top menu, and you can leave it in the bottom, because if someone wants to find your social media, they're going to find it. If they are trying to just, I don't know, if you're trying to push it on them a little too much, it just makes the website look busier and less attractive. Okay, I think the rest of it looks really good, so why don't I just move into the technical bit here. I took screenshots of this because this always happens. Screenshots of these. This is basically just a speed test. What it does is it tests how, from different locations. This one is from New York City, and this is going to be more important depending on where your customers are. Your readers are. If you are, I know you said, I think I read Chicago. I don't know if that's actually where you live now, but the United States is going to be the most important place, because that's where the highest number of English speakers live. And so, you want to check United States, New York City, as well as San Jose's California, like San Francisco area. This is basically the speed load of your website. And this is really, really important, especially for you, a blog, because how people generally find blogs is they Google something like great recipe for, I don't know, whatever, for cinnamon rolls. I don't know what that, or apple something, whatever that is. Best recipe for apple pie, for example, and they find your article. If your article takes longer than 2 seconds to load, and this took 4.75 seconds to load, so this is really important for you. If your article took longer than 2 seconds to load, you can be sure that 25% of the people are already gone. They will hit the back button before your website has loaded, and that's a huge problem for you. If you're more than 3 seconds, that number jumps to 40%. And so again, this is really, really important for you. Now, in New York City, this took 4.75 seconds. In San Francisco area, that took exactly 3 seconds. And so again, you need to speed it up all around the board. Now, you are going to probably have some readers all over the world as well. So I checked Sweden. This is the server basically for Europe. You can expect anybody in Europe to have to wait this long. Oops, excuse me. And I want to edit. So if somebody takes 6.87 seconds, you can bet that pretty much around 70% of your readers will hit the back button before your website is even loaded. And so this is a big problem for you. Now, obviously, that information is not useful for you if I don't tell you how to fix it. Your website isn't that big, like in terms of like file sizes. 2 megabytes isn't that big. I do try to shoot for 1 megabyte to make it smaller, but 2 megabytes isn't the biggest website I've seen. I would, the best suggestion that I can give you is to reduce your image sizes and reduce your code, but also, the biggest suggestion I can give you is to change your host. I don't know who your host is, but my guess is it's one of those kind of cheaper hosts because of how slow your website was. Let me see. Yeah, it's Bluehost. I can see right there. So you're using Bluehost to host. There, to be honest, I mean, it's cheap. It works when you first start, but as you gain traction, it gets worse and worse and worse, because what happens is they throttle your bandwidth. All of the cheap hosts do this. So what I would suggest to you, all of my clients, I give them, I host all of their websites. And so if you want to, if you become a client of mine, you will get the same kind. But if you don't want to become my client, these guys are probably the best hosts in the business, in terms of just personal websites. It is a lot more expensive, I think. Bluehost is something like, I don't know, $8 a month. WP Engine is $29 per month. It's a lot more expensive, but they're really fantastic. I just got a phone call, so I might repeat things here a little bit. If you do not want to pay that much and you do not want to become a client of mine, you can still install something called the CDN, and this is free. It won't speed up your site that much, but it will make a difference. Let's see. Why am I forgetting what it is? Cloudflare. I always know it has cloud, and then I get mixed up with Cloudways. Cloudflare. This is a free CDN. that you can install on your website. It will speed it up, but not so much that, it's like a replacement for this over here, but it will help. The next thing is that I noticed your website does not have SSL, and if you go to one of my websites, SSL is security. It's something that people really like to see. You're not selling anything, so it's not required, but it is something that people like to see, and that's right here. It's the lock with the HTTPS, and it's green. People like to see that, and so does Google. Google will give you more traffic if you have that SSL. Because you don't have it, it's almost certainly costing you traffic. Depending on what you get. If you're brand new, I mean, I don't think you're brand new, but if you're brand new, that might not make such a difference. But because you're not, it's probably costing you traffic. Let's see. And it might be costing you, like readers as well, as they see that. Pretty soon, it's not happening yet, but pretty soon, Google Chrome and the other major browsers are going to make people go through a wall. If there's no SSL, they're basically going to pretty soon, not right away, but whenever you go to a site that does not have SSL, Google Chrome and the other major browsers are going to put up a white page with let me just do this. They're going to put up a white page with a button in the middle that says something like, "This site is not secured. Are you sure you want to continue?" It'll actually be red. And what's going to happen is that's going to make not having an SSL a lot harder. And so this is something that I definitely suggest that you do. You can buy it from Bluehost, probably sells them. Again, my clients get them included with their hosting. And yeah, you definitely need that going forward if you want to be serious about the blog. Okay, the next thing that I want to go into is the search engine optimization. This has a lot to do with your speed already. But it will also have to do with some other things that I haven't mentioned yet. It's actually going to... Hold on. I need to go to the home page here. Okay, and so this, basically, it's not quite finished yet, but this is going to give your website a C++, and this has to do with a lot of things, and I'll run through them in a minute here. Once it's complete, or I can start right now. Some of it is going to be stuff I've already mentioned. Other things are going to be new. That's good that you've got a title tag and a meta description. No need to change anything. Keyword consistency. This is basically, in terms of your SEO, you generally have a certain set of keywords that you want to promote on your website. This basically means that you are not being consistent with those keywords, which can be a problem when people try to find your site or Google tries to search your site. They don't really know exactly what it's about. This is something that I suggest, just getting consistent with the keywords that you're using. Same thing with the amount of content. I would add more content to your homepage, because that's how Google knows kind of what's there. Obviously your articles are a different story, but the homepage is also important. Image alt tags, this gives you an X, but it actually says only one of them is missing the alt attribute, which is not too bad. This is actually really great. I mean, you could obviously be doing better, but you have 13 external backlinks. That's better than some sites, so it means you're probably getting some traffic from Google. But again, because the issues that I've given you, it probably could be a lot more if you were to, use WP Engine or me as a host, and you were to add a CDN and SSL and all those things. If you because you have some backlinks, and because you're advertising, that makes me think that you're getting some traffic. If you take everything that I say on board, you can be doing... I can't make any promises as to how much, but you can be doing a lot better, that's for sure. These are really important. Robots.txt not so much, but the XML sitemap is really important, and this is really easy to add. Oops, excuse me. This right here is something that you should definitely have, and it's really easy to do. I think... Oops. Let's see. I actually don't know, but I'm going to guess that you are using WordPress. because it looks like a WordPress website, and most people do for blogs. But let's see. Obviously, you know the answer before I get here, but yeah, it just redirected. So, oh, you're using WordPress.com. Okay, so that I would call that a problem. That was something I didn't realize before, and that might be the root of some of these other issues as well. I'll get to that in a minute. There are two types of WordPress, but I'll get to that in a minute. So your XML sitemap, if you search for something like WordPress, this is really easy to add. WordPress XML sitemap. You will find plugins, and I don't know exactly how WordPress.com works with this because I only deal with WordPress.org. But this is like just a plugin that you can install on your website, and it'll do it automatically. Let's get back here. Definitely, where was I? Where were you? Definitely make sure that this is sorted, this XML sitemaps. That's really important. Usability, this says it's good, although I'm looking at the phone here, and I can't actually see what the website is. So I would be careful of that. Be wary about what's showing on mobile devices. Iframes, this says no iframes, but I would say that that's probably fine. Your performance, this is what's going to be killing you. And I'm just going to take a screenshot here so I can draw on it. If I go into... Okay, so your server response is really rubbish. You're using Bluehost as a host or WordPress.com or whatever you're using. This basically means it's when I try to enter your website, this is the first time that the server responds. If you're taking 2.67 seconds for the server to respond, that you already know that the server's probably asleep when I first get there. So that's a huge problem. I would definitely suggest switching hosts. That is probably the best thing and the first thing that you should do. And yeah, this is definitely hurting your traffic and hurting the readers who are coming to your website. The people who actually click on your stuff. It's reducing both of those. All pages loaded as can be expected. All page content loaded. 7 seconds is not very good, and that's largely because of this number right here. All in the same thing. Really bad because of these two numbers. So I would definitely suggest making some big changes in terms of hosting and everything else. Your total page size is not too bad, but it could definitely be better. Is that 2.1 or 3.1? 3.1 megabytes. So this number down here definitely could be better. 3.1 megabytes. It's not the worst in the world, but what I would suggest doing is reducing your image size. I don't know how big your images are, but making sure they're 72 dpi, and you can use a plugin to reduce those automatically if you use something like Smush Images WordPress plugin. Smush Image. I don't know exactly which one is the best one, but I've used this one before and it's pretty good. It basically just compresses your images automatically, and it does it so that you can't really notice a loss in image quality. There might be a small one, but it's insignificant compared to the savings in size that you have. So that's one thing that you can change to make your total page size smaller. It looks like it is also your JavaScript is also taking up a lot of space, which means okay. And here's everything that's taking up a lot of space. You have JavaScript errors. That's a problem. That's going to be with your WordPress theme. You can't have that. I wouldn't worry about this too much. The gzip compression, although that is something that you can change. Optimize your images. This is what I was just talking about, and this is really important because you're using, about more than a third of your website is images, and so making sure your images are optimized is really important to your page speed. Minification. This is the same thing as optimizing your images, but for your code. And as you can see, you have this yellow one right here. Another, maybe 35-40% is JavaScript code. That's definitely something you need to get taken care of, and that probably also comes down to the theme that you're using. Inline styles, this is probably relatively small, but it does present an inefficiency. And so I would definitely do something about that. Social media looks good, although it's not that important. As I mentioned before, this is SSL, the security. That's really important. In terms of your Google ranking, that's really important. And in the future, it's going to really kill your like readership, to be perfectly honest, because people are going to have to get through that wall and click a button saying, I understand this site is not secured. That's something that's coming. That's it for the SEO. I wanted to go really quick into the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org and why I prefer and recommend WordPress.org. There are two different WordPresses. There's WordPress, as you probably already know this, but just in case you don't, I'm going to go ahead and show you. WordPress.org, and it looked like you're using WordPress.com. Let me just exit out of these real quick. WordPress.org is self-hosted, so you host it yourself, and it's a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? Like free. There's a lot more you can do with it, and you host it yourself. So my guess is your Bluehost hosting was probably actually just maybe your domain name, because I think WordPress.com sites are all hosted by WordPress itself. Let me see. Oh no, it says name servers or Bluehost too. So I'm not sure if you're hosting with WordPress or if you're hosting with Bluehost, but either way, you definitely need to upgrade your host. I won't know that until I can look at your DNS records, which obviously I won't. But yeah, so WordPress.org is just a lot more flexible. You can do a lot more with it. You have more options and themes. I think it actually comes out to be cheaper. I understand that WordPress.com is like the hosting is, I don't know, $4 a month, I think. Yeah, personal site is $4 a month. But the fact of the matter is that the themes are more expensive and you're more limited in what you can do. And so in the end, especially if you're making money on your blog, I definitely suggest you go with WordPress.org on a self-hosted server. And you just benefit from that flexibility. Yeah, I mean, that's my biggest recommendation. Let me see if that's everything that I need to go through here. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's it. So I just checked my notes. That's everything that I need to go through. Wasn't that fun? Anything that I say here, please don't take as an insult or take it personally. It's completely meant for your benefit. It's meant so that you can improve. As I said before, if you make all the changes I've suggested, you will definitely get more traffic, and you will definitely get more of your traffic actually engaging with your content, because it doesn't take as long to load. And yeah, I mean, that's about it. It's really awesome that you've started this. I think that, anybody who's passionate about something, enough to start a blog is really something to admire about a person. And so this is really awesome. Congratulations on taking it this far. Obviously, all of this information is completely free. If you want to take it to the next level, that's what I get paid to do. So if you want help on this, just let me know and get into contact with me. I guess Instagram is the best way.